Do you really understand what partial obedience is? And you may have heard the phrase partial obedience is full disobedience. Yes. And how can we examine ourselves deeper in that? Are there areas of my life that I look at as an exception in my obedience to God? Oh man, today we are in 2 Kings chapter 15, and we're going to dig deep into that. And we're going to see Israel go through these 5 kings just kind of like back to back to back to back to back, all kinds of mess going on, but we can still examine our own hearts in this one too. So come on in and join me. Hey y'all, I'm Kaela. Welcome back to His Word, My Walk. Y'all, I just love y'all and I love this community. Refill your tea. It is cozy season. So get cozy, turn on the fireplace, and let's get into God's Word. And as we go deeper into this history, I'm going to have to be really honest with you today. It'll probably be fixed by time this video is up, but I have made an error in your King's chart at the very bottom. So I'll make sure a new one gets to you. But I'm a real person too. So there is an error. I'm missing a whole person. But let's get into chapter 15 because we're going to crush through a bunch of kings in this one. Remember now Uzziah, right? Azariah is king. So Uzziah, son of Amaziah, began to rule over Judah in the 27th year of the reign of King Jeroboam II of Israel, who we already know is a bad dude. He was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 52 years. His mother was Kaela from Jerusalem. 52 years. Is that the longest? It is. Well, so far. So far. The longest any of the kings have gone. 52 years. So does that mean he was great? Does that mean he did good? Also, let's remember 16 years old, he comes in to be king, which we kind of think is probably he was voted in while his dad was in captivity kind of thing, voted in by the people, but he comes in at a bad time. The temple was basically just robbed, sort of. People have been taken hostage. He's 16 years old. He's coming in at king while everything's really hard. But check this out. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, just as his father Amaziah had done. Had done at first, right? But he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. Look, we talked about that a lot in the last chapter and what we have access to. And if it's still there, it can still be used, right? If it's still there, it's still good. This is another very silly example that just came to mind. Do you have a pair of shoes or a sweatshirt and it's got holes in it and it's everything and it's not supportive at all anymore? Your shoes, your feet are hurting, but you won't, if they're still there, you're still going to put them on, but you refuse to throw them out. I know that's a silly example, but I feel you know me on that. You feel me on that one. You have something. And if you're watching with your husband or your wife, you're probably side-eyeing each other being see, this is from the Lord. Kaela said, get rid of those old shoes. Get rid of that old sweatshirt. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to cause fights. None of that kind of stuff. But you know what else is really cool about this? First of all, that we read that he did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, but he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. The Lord struck the king with leprosy, which lasted until the day he died. He lived in isolation in a separate house. The king's son Jotham was put in charge of the royal palace, and he governed the people of the land. Now, if you didn't go to 2 Chronicles and read chapter 25 yesterday, I'm going to need you to go and read chapter 26 today. Because 2 Chronicle tells us not only did Uzziah come in and reign, and he reigned 52 years. First of all, these 3 little paragraphs, that's 52 years of time. Let's comprehend or try to comprehend that when we read the Bible. 52 years of time in these 3 paragraphs. Okay? That's why we go to 2 Chronicles chapter 26. It tells us he defeated the Philistines in this. He defeated the Ammonites maybe in this war. Like he did so much other stuff. Yeah, 52 years. He was obviously a good king and he did all these things, did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, except he didn't do this. And then I examine myself. What is my like? But God, I'm doing all this for you. I'm doing all this awesome stuff for you, except for this. Except sometimes I do this. Except sometimes I go this way. But no one really sees that part. But it doesn't really affect because I'm also doing all of this good stuff for you. I'm fully living for you. I worship you. I do. But there's this one part of my life that like, it's just a little piece though. It can't be that bad. What am I making exceptions in? And if you're like, no, but actually, okay, that's when we gotta like dig a little deeper. And you might need to even pause this video right now, or after it's done, go for a walk with the Lord. Like, let this be your conversation with God throughout the rest of the day, throughout the rest of the week, in a very humble way of like, what is it, God? And when he reveals to you and you see like, well, what about this? And you're like, no, not that. It's probably that. This is how we examine ourselves and this is how we grow. And sometimes it's hard and sometimes it hurts. And sometimes it means being really, really honest with ourselves too. But all that to say, go read chapter 26 of 2 Chronicles because your boy did way more stuff in the 52 years that he reigned than we read in these 3 little paragraphs. Then he gets leprosy. And then we actually see, okay, he gets leprosy, so he has to live in another house. And so his son becomes kind of ruler over the palace and everything. Yet remember when, I want to say Naaman, but it wasn't Naaman. Who was it back when had the leprosy and the little servant girl said, hey, go and get healed. He was still the commander of an army, but this guy has leprosy too. Okay, the rest of the events of Uzziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Uzziah died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and his son Jotham became the next king. Fun fact, right? If we flip to the book of Isaiah, like as in like the Isaiah, the prophet, let's get there. Come on, Kaela. We're getting there. I just want to read the very first part of chapter 1 because this also gives us some understanding of context. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 1 says this, these are the visions that Isaiah, son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. He saw these visions during the years when Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah were kings of Judah. Cool, right? So when we're thinking chronologically and what's going on, okay, these visions, if you flip through and you want to read through Isaiah, this is when that's happening. All right, now we get into what's kind of called like the 5 kings of Israel. So we're going to knock out 5 of them really fast and see what a mess it is, okay? Here we go, verse 8. Zechariah, son of Jeroboam II, began to rule over Israel in the 38th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 6 months. Zechariah did what was evil in the Lord's sight and as his ancestors had done. He refused to turn from the sins, say it with me, that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Again, we went over that one a little bit more in depth in the last chapter, and I was like, yo, let's examine ourselves. But say it with me, we know that's coming. Then Shallum, son of Jabesh, conspired against Zechariah, assassinated him in public, and became the next king. Not related, not anything, kills him and becomes the next king. That was the end of Jehu. Remember Jehu's reign, they said 4 generations? And Zechariah was the last one. And then he's assassinated, and Shallum, who assassinates him, who's he? He becomes the next king. The rest of the events of Zechariah's reign are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. So the Lord's message to Jehu came true. Your descendants will be kings of Israel down to the 4th generation. Here we are, Jehu, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're into Shallum, who has no relation. If you go back up, one of the mistakes that I made, Zechariah is actually the son. I wrote no relation. I was on the wrong line. the son of Jeroboam the second. I hope that you have found these and that you're not like, I'm recording this a little bit ahead. Sometimes because I now have an editor, fun fact, now that I have an editor who helps me with this and putting the scriptures on the screen, I have to stay like a week ahead of what you're seeing. And so when people are commenting, being like, oh, this is wrong, I'm like, sorry, I tried. And I just thank you for your grace, knowing that I'm a real person and I study too. And sometimes I get things wrong and I can still come back to you and be like, yo, I messed up. Let's fix it and move forward together. Okay. All right. So now Shallum's in. Shallum, son of Jabesh, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. All right. Because remember, he reigns 52 years. So year 39, Shallum's in Israel. Shallum reigned in Samaria only 1 month. Then Menahem, son of Gadi, went to Samaria from Tirzah and assassinated him, and he became the next king. Who's this guy? Again, totally unrelated. The rest of the events of Shallum's reign, including his conspiracy, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. You got questions too? Like, so someone just comes and assassinates the king and says, I'm the king now. And then someone unrelated to him 1 month later assassinates the king and says, I'm the king now. What is actually going on in Israel? Meanwhile, Judah is just like, yep, I'm still king, 52 years worth, doing what's good in the Lord's sight. They're a mess up there. What is actually going on? How are they going to get through this? And also just remember, like Jehu, he said 4 generations. Well, Shallum comes in and has 4 weeks of ruling, but no generations after him. I wonder if, we can't find the answer to this, I'm just curious. Like if Shallum had a son, and if his son was like, oh my gosh, my dad's the king, I'm going to be the next king. I don't know. I don't know if they thought like it would go, but how did the people? So, and then Menahem comes in, assassinates Shallum, and says, I'm the next king. And the people are just like, great. At that time, Menahem destroyed the town of Tappuah and all the surrounding countryside as far as Tirzah because its citizens refused to surrender the town. He killed the entire population and ripped open the pregnant women. I'm with you, right? Unbelievably awful. This is a record of history of what happened. But let's also flip back a couple chapters real quick to 2 Kings chapter 8. And this is what Elisha said when he was speaking to Hazael. Elisha replied, what verse are we at here? 12? Elisha replied, I know the terrible things you will do to the people of Israel. You will burn their fortified cities, kill their young men with the sword, dash their little children to the ground, and rip open their pregnant women. That's what he said to Hazael. So is this like this is what foreigners did to them in war? Like, is this how foreigners treated, like enemies basically treated the Israelites? And where is this guy coming from? Verse 17, Menahem, son of Gadi, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 10 years. I would have thought this was another like 3 weeks, 2 days, 1 day type of thing. If this is what he's doing, how does he reign so long? How did no one come and assassinate him? Like Shallum lasted 1 month. All this is happening. Why did no one come and assassinate him? But Menahem did what was evil in the Lord's sight. I feel like we don't even need to read that. Like we already know that. During his entire reign, he refused to turn from the sins, say it with me, that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. How many years are we at, right? These sins that Jeroboam committed and then led Israel to commit, how many years has passed since that? And yet it's still going back to that. Then King Tiglath-Pileser, y'all, we're trying, of Assyria, invaded the land. But Menahem paid him 37 tons of silver to gain his support in tightening his grip on royal power. So now the real enemies are coming, and you pay him to help you tighten your grip against them. Menahem extorted the money from the rich of Israel, demanding that each of them pay 50 pieces of silver to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned from attacking Israel and did not stay in the land. Wow. So he's the king. He goes to all the rich people, tells them they have to pay him this much money, gives that to the king of Assyria so he can just stay in power. The rest of the events of Menahem's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Menahem died, his son, Pekahiah, became the next king. His son. So the last two, they had no relation. It was like he assassinated him, so he's king. He assassinated him, so he's king. But now his son gets in. This is where I missed one. So if you're here going through Israel, we got to put Pekahiah, I put them together as one person. So we're at Pekahiah right now, and he is the son of Menahem, all right? Jot that one in there. And I'll redo the chart. So anyone who downloads it from this moment on, they'll just get the correct one, and they'll be like, wait, what? You'll be watching this being like, wait, mine doesn't say it's wrong. I fixed it. Okay, so he moves on. So his son, Pekahiah, became the next king. Pekahiah, son of Menahem, began to rule over Israel in the 50th year of King Uzziah's reign. All right, he's got 52 years. In the 50th year of King Uzziah's reign, he reigned in Samaria 2 years. But Pekahiah, we already know, did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. It almost gets like, redundant is a ridiculous word to even think, but even like annoying, like, okay, got it. Like, why do we have to read this over and over and over? But yet I can still like look within my life, or even look within like my country or culture, or like decisions that were made even hundreds of years ago, maybe even in my ancestry, maybe even within my family lineage, that still affect how we make decisions today. You know, we talk about generational curses. Hello? Right? Like, who's going to break it? How's it going to be broken? What has to stop with me so that they can't say, and Kaela continued on and she was just like her great-great-great-great-grandmother. She was just like her. I don't want to be that. Then Pekah, son of Remaliah, the commander of Pekahiah's army, conspired against him. With 50 men from Gilead, Pekah assassinated the king along with Argob and Ariah in the citadel of the palace of Samaria, and Pekah reigned in his palace. The rest of the events of Pekahiah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. So remember to add an extra line, right? So now, cool, we had one time that it was the son. Now he's assassinated. Now we're on to someone else. The commander comes in and he's the next king. Commander Pekah, right? Pekahiah was the son. He's assassinated by Pekah. Pekah, son of Remaliah, began to rule over Israel in the 52nd year of Uzziah's reign. Okay, well, he reigns 52 years, so he's got to be coming to an end. He reigned in Samaria 20 years. Do I even need to read it, right? But Pekah did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. During Pekah's reign, King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria attacked Israel again, and he captured the towns of Ijon, Abel-Beth-Maacah, Genoa, Kadesh, and Hazor. He also conquered the regions of Gilead, Galilee, and all of Naphtali, and he took the people to Assyria as captives. Let's remember where we're at. Remember, we already read that he got the ones east of the Jordan. Now he took all these ones, and he took the people captive. So he's taking over their land. So the land of Israel is getting smaller and smaller. When they came out of Egypt, remember, they had all this land. All they had to do was get everyone out of it. They had all, and not go back to the pagan shrines and stuff. All this land east of the Jordan has already been captured and is gone. And now the king of Assyria attacked Israel again, and he captured the towns of Ijon, Abel-Beth-Maacah, Genoa, Kadesh, and Hazor. He also conquered the regions of Gilead, Galilee, and all of Naphtali, and he took the people to Assyria as captives. Then Hoshea, son of Elah, conspired against Pekah and assassinated him. He began to rule over Israel in the 20th year of Jotham, son of Uzziah. Okay, spoiler alert, Jotham, son of Uzziah, is king now in Judah. And now we have another assassination and another king. The rest of the events of Pekah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Remember, these 3 paragraphs also cover how much time. How long did he rule? 20 years. All right, verse 32. Jotham, son of Uzziah, began to rule over Judah in the 2nd year of King Pekah's reign in Israel. Now we're Judah, okay? We just did 5 kings of Israel back to back to back to back while Uzziah was the king. Now we are at Jotham in Judah, right? We're back to the south. Jotham, son of Uzziah, began to rule over Judah in the 2nd year of King Pekah's reign in Israel. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. His mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Jotham did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight. He did everything his father, Uzziah, had done. And before I even go on to the but, because we already know what it's going to say, right? Even just reading through all of these different kings and sons and kings and sons and kings and assassinate is like, I don't know, it just gives me a little even more. We know it today, but like the father-son influence and the father-son relationship and how important that is. And we'll say things like the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And we can see it in context here. So again, we can examine ourselves in who am I influencing? How am I influencing them? Who's influencing me? You know what I'm saying? Jotham did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight. He did everything his father Uzziah had done, but he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. He rebuilt the upper gate of the temple of the Lord. What did that do? What was the upper gate of the temple of the Lord? You can do some research in there. For him being the king, and we're the temple of the Lord. So the palace and the temple, what was the upper gate? The rest of the events of Jotham's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. In those days, the Lord began to send King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel to attack Judah. The Lord began to send. I thought Judah was good, and they're under a good king. In those days, the Lord began to send King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel to attack Judah. When Jotham died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and his son Ahaz became the next king. Wow. Y'all, seriously? As we're going through these kings, I know it's like names and names and names and names, but that's why we have a chart, and that's why we learn when we missed a person on the chart, and you can update that too, because we've still got, look, we've got one more in Israel, because they're captive now. So we got one more, spoiler alert, but Judah continues to go. All right. So that's where we're getting to in the history of Israel and Judah. So let me give you your Walk It Out challenge for chapter 15. If you haven't already done this, or even if you have, I want to encourage you to do this challenge today freshly, if that's a word, in a fresh way. Start over, clear what you thought it was, and approach God with just like, if it's something different, like just with full openness. All right, let me give it to you. Today, identify one high place. Actually, let's call it what it is. Today, identify one exception in your life and take a step to remove it. What have you left standing? What are you actively trying to build on, knowing the foundation is not solidly built with God, knowing it does not bring him glory? Yet because you're obedient in other areas, this one is okay. No. Identify it and take a step to remove it today. I'm reading this right now and I'm like, Kaela, take a step to remove it? No, remove it. Take a step to remove it today. Let's fully walk in obedience. And this is why I said I want you to come to God with this challenge today fresh, right? Like you may have had in your mind what you thought it was or what you think it is, but allow him to speak. It may be something that you haven't thought of. It may be something that like you've truly made an exception for, and it's just okay because that's the way life is, and nothing bad has happened, you know? So what is it today? And then like take a step and remove it and get it out. I know these things are hard. I'm a person too. I deal with this too. I have to go through this too. I cry about it too. I tell God, but I'm not doing it that bad too. Like I'm a real person. I'm right here with you. So when I give you these challenges, I'm challenged by them as well. All right. I just want you to know, like, this is real life. This is real life. And if we can really be honest and really examine ourselves as we're spending time with God and his word, this is what changes us as we follow him in all areas, as we surrender in all areas. All right. Let me pray us out of here. Oh, God, thank you for your word. Thank you for being so thoughtful in how history was recorded, in how we can learn from it, and how it's available to us thousands of years later. That you were so thoughtful and so purposeful in who wrote down what. And I thank you for that. I thank you that we can learn from that. Today I pray over the one watching and the one listening, Lord. Holy Spirit, would you speak directly to them? Would you point out in them and me what it is that we've left standing, what it is that we've actually made an exception for? Would you help us to be open to receive your truth? Help us to calm our hearts and our minds. Help us to not be defensive when it comes to mine and just brush it off, but to truly recognize your voice in this conversation, to truly recognize what you are pointing out. And that we don't become defensive, that we don't make excuses, that we don't make an exception, but that we sit and humbly recognize, God, you're right. God, you're right. I have made an exception in that area. God, you're right. I haven't laid that one fully down. God, you're right. I'm still keeping a piece of that with me. God, you're right. I've kept it there thinking it wasn't doing anything bad, but I do go back to it every now and then. God, you're right. And I surrender to you today. I surrender my way. I surrender my will. I surrender my exceptions to you today. All for your glory so that I can live in a way that is pleasing to you. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. I tell you what, I know that Walk It Out challenge is a deep one, and it's deep within our hearts, and it's something we often don't want to deal with. But doing these challenges and really walking them out is going to help us grow in our relationship with God, but in who we are as people and how we represent him in the world. So I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you to take the challenges in your own time with God. And then let's keep going to the next chapter.